Thank you very much, and welcome once again to Where Are They Now? And as we've been talking about for the last 2 hours, joining us here is Robin Ventura. Certainly doesn't need a major introduction to Oklahoma State fans for sure. Three-time All-American here. Certainly a 16-year veteran in the major leagues. Played for my Mets for a while, which I like that. Two-time All-Star. Managed the White Sox for 5 years. And now, you're going into your third year, right, as a student assistant. Is that right? Coming up? 3 years?
3 years.
Yeah.
3 years. You sound a little disappointed that it's me that's on today. I'm just
no,
gonna say that.
I'm trying to build up to it.
You're scraping the bottom of the barrel and you want something more.
I don't want to peak too early.
Okay.
I know. I want to be strong in the eighth inning. I don't want to let it all go in the first.
You're always about a bullpen, Tom.
That's all I've ever been, is a bullpen. That's all I've ever been. Hey, you. What are you doing on your summer vacation? I guess I could start since you are a student, of course.
I can't recruit. The best part about my job is I can't recruit, so they can't send me out on the road to recruit. So let's see. I went with some guy, E.J. Pfister and Bob Tway. We all went up to Montana to fly fish. So
wow.
That's kind of what, I have the free time to go do that because it's illegal for me to go out and recruit. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
So I have some free time.
Well, that's good. You need that.
Yeah.
I mean, and you need to reflect on a lot of things so you could be on radio with me. Is what you need.
Yeah, reflect.
Hey, let me ask you about. And I just saw, as an aside, I just saw Mercer go deep. How about that? Mercer just took somebody deep for the Nats. We're getting into the draft again. It's not the draft that we knew with 35, 38 rounds, whatever we had back in normalcy, but it's going to go up to 20 rounds on the 10th or 11th, I think, of July out in Denver. You were on the other side of that fence. You were on the managerial side. How much work goes into that, knowing who you're going to draft?
Oh, there's a lot of work and actually a lot of pressure for the guys that do that. You can't miss. I mean, if you miss in those first couple of rounds, you really set yourself back. So you have to be pretty confident in what you're drafting and even what the needs are. I mean, I know, baseball's probably a little bit different as far as needs and things like that, because really the bottom line, you want to draft the best player you can get at that spot. And if it's a pitcher, great. If it's a fielder, you just got to get the best guy you can get. And I know, having watched like football and things like that, where they'll say, well, they got to need an offensive line or anything else. But really in baseball, you just want to get the best guy that you can get, and you'll figure it out later.
How much input, and I would think there'd be a lot, but a major league manager like yourself, how much would he have leading up to the draft? How much input did you have?
Well, you don't really necessarily have input, but, I used to go sit up in there and, they put their war room together in the stadium, and you'd be able to go up there and kind of listen to who they're talking about. And, if you've seen the guy, great, but, you don't get to go out and watch them. Mm-hmm. So you're just watching on TV. Maybe there's a college game on TV or things like that. And you just, you kind of pick their brain on, why this guy is the guy that they're focused on, and they think they can get him. Do they think he's going to be around at their, the pick that they're picking at? And that's just stuff the manager does. I'd be surprised, that managers would have input, because you really don't see these guys as much as the scouts do. And these guys are on the road all year long, watching games all day long. So, you have to trust those guys to do their job, and hopefully they pick a good one.
And I would assume by then, be it yourself or the general manager, you've made your shopping list known, right, to the people who are out there looking. This year we need to add this, we need to add pitchers, we need to add infielders or whatever.
We had a lot of things to add, Tom. So I don't think we could fill them in one draft.
Well, you can hope anyway.
Yeah, you can.
And you could always trade up and all those things that are going on. But I was always intrigued, and there was so many rounds. I would think, well, somebody gets drafted in the 38th round. Well, what chance does he have to make it? Well, there's a lot more of those 30 to 40 round guys that make it in the major leagues than even I knew.
Yeah, I mean, there's, I think it was Piazza was like 60th round, and Mark Burley 38th round or something like that. Just, there are guys that get drafted there that they kind of figured it out when they're in the minor leagues, and they work their way through the minor leagues and end up making it. Where you're drafted, I mean, it's nice for the guy that gets drafted, but it doesn't guarantee anything. The whole thing about potential is it kind of shows that you haven't done anything yet. So that's part of the baseball that you got to still go out and play and perform.
You were on the other end of that spectrum, though. I mean, you were the 10th overall pick by Chicago, the White Sox, back in '88. And I guess with that comes expectation, right, that you're going to come up there and help out sooner than later. So, I mean, you got a wide spectrum of business, so to speak, with players. And I think it depends on what happens with that individual, whether they got the gumption and the ability to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, there's guys that, if they come out of high school, you're obviously not going to see them quite as soon. But, the college guys, I think there's quite a few guys now that are pretty dang close to being able to go up there, right out of the gate. And I think especially with the arms that you're seeing.
Yeah.
I think there's just some, I mean, you look at the game tonight, the final,
Jeez.
Those two guys probably won't be very long before they're in the big leagues. I mean, technically they could probably be pitching in September if all goes well for them. But, there's a lot of teams that do that. I know, Kansas City did it with Finnegan out of TCU when I was managing. You watch a World Series game, college World Series game, and then next thing you know, this guy's up, and you're like, how come we don't have one of these guys?
Yeah.
But that's just kind of the way the game works right now.
When you were playing, and even managing, but when you were playing, what was the percentage of 95ers, 96ers that are sprinkled around the league? I mean, it couldn't have been that many, right? Back in the late 80s, early 90s?
Well, when I played, not as many. I mean, you're kind of, your ears went up when you heard a guy was, up there 96, 97, and then that was mid-90s, and then by the time I was done playing, it just seems like there was more. And then now that I'm managing, you're going through it, and you're kind of looking at the other team of, what they got in the bullpen and everything else. I mean, there's really no time in the history of the game that they have the most players that throw over 95 miles an hour than right now. I mean, it just seems like every guy that comes out is just throwing, 97, 98.
And thus it puts the heat on, no pun intended, on the hitters. I mean, the hitters have to adapt to that
absolutely.
Now.
Yeah. And these guys have kind of figured out a way to adjust to it and be able to hit. And that's just, again, guys adjusting and kind of keeping up with where the game's going.
Last year was 5 rounds, and I think for all the obvious reasons, and certainly was economical, I guess, in MLB's mind. Minor leagues were cut down to nothing. We got a little bit more of that going on right now. What do you see off the Cowboy roster from a year ago? The guys that, at least from your perspective, that would be somewhat attractive to a 20-round draft this year?
I think, Christian's going to be attractive to people. I think what he's done this year and just his physicality, athleticism, I think, he's somebody that could. I think McCusker, Cabness, and I think just his overall athleticism and defensively, somebody give him a shot. Parker Scott, I think he kind of has that Burley feel to me. Like he just really gets it, just by his feel for the game. I think that's somebody that is has a shot of somebody taking a look at him. You never know what they're looking for and what they're doing. I mean, if I mean, the one thing, you got Max Hewitt that's a great contact hitter and kind of spray it around. You just don't know if that's what a team's looking for.
I got you. Yeah, does 20 rounds kind of hurt a guy like Max because maybe he would have gone later?
Probably. I think that is going to be difficult, and I think they've eliminated some minor league teams that I think that part is going to be difficult too. So I think there's going to be some guys that need to maybe go play for an independent team somewhere, and if they do well, then they get picked up.
I'm glad you brought that up because I wondered if in this day and age now where they have cut some of the minor leagues off, will these independent teams become more relevant in the big picture now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's going to be a place for kids to go and kind of prove with a wood bat that they can play. And I think it's a boost in the arm for those independent teams. I know the minor league teams, the people that owned them and are operating them, they're not necessarily going to be happy with what kind of went down. But, I think these independent teams are going to try and pick up the slack for that.
You had a bunch of guys, and literally, no pun intended, you had more guys in the dugout or capable of suiting up in this day and age because of the super seniors than you had last year. That thins out a little bit this year, as I understand it. Maybe they come back one more year, but I think the numbers thin out a bit. You've had some time to kind of put the season in perspective. There were a lot of ups and downs, to say the least, and maybe we never did get in a full rhythm because of injuries. But how did you look back on that?
With that many people, I think it was kind of a difficult year to keep. We had 40-something guys, and to keep them all kind of focused and in sync, and then when you have an injury and then that guy comes back, I don't know how many times we were actually fully healthy and like just on a roll, just kind of clicking at all cylinders. So that kind of stuff, I don't, not being healthy all year is just that was probably the biggest factor of just not being able to kind of keep it going. I mean, we had starting pitchers go down, players go down, and that's tough to overcome.
As we looked at, we also know and we see each year, anything can happen in a regional, and what you did in a regular season sometimes doesn't carry over to a regional. Some teams are hotter than you when you get there, and some teams play better than you do for a couple of games.
Yeah,
that just happens every year. But coming back from Arizona, I mean, prior to the first pitch, it appeared that the team you'd have to beat would be Arizona twice. I mean, logic might have told everybody that, but we never got to Arizona. That had to be a huge disappointment for those guys who were out there.
Yeah, and that's I think when you go through the Big 12 tournament, we seem to get on a little bit of a run there where you felt pretty good about the way it was going, and we get Parker back, we get Brett back. And I think we did enough offensively. We just didn't have really the depth pitching wise to be able to kind of sustain it. And that's just something that happens. You rely on those guys so much, and they can get tired and probably not as effective. And I think that kind of stuff plays into it.
I wonder if you'd agree with this. I think one of the stories that kind of gets lost in the shuffle. And it was because of injury and all that, but I thought Marcus Brown took the bit and ran with it. He looks like a keeper.
Yeah, he did. I mean, that's one of the things where you have a need and you're not quite sure which way you're going to go, but sooner or later you just got to put him out there and see what happens. And he's such a team player and he has energy. He did a lot of things. I mean, you never really knew where he was going to play when we started the season because he can play a little third, he can play second, he can play short. And, when a need arose, he was ready. I think he was the one guy that, when it happened, he was ready to go. And I think he was locked in whether he was playing or not. He just seemed to have that knack for being able to kind of just focus and not lose enthusiasm and pulling for guys and things like that. He never, even when he wasn't playing, he didn't put his head down go hide in the corner. He was still ready to go, and I think that's a credit to him that when he got a shot, he did it. He was ready for it.
Have you been able to follow the College World Series as closely as your schedule would indicate, or it seemed like we've had some dramatic things go on, and nothing more dramatic than the COVID that took NC State out of it.
Yeah, that's just a kind of a sad way for those guys to end. I mean, you finally get to a point you're one game away from the finals, and you kind of get dealt with that. But yeah, I keep up with it. I'll watch games when I'm at home. I'll watch tonight's game. That's I think tonight is got to be one of the better games that's maybe ever been played for a final, just with the pitchers that are going to be going and the teams that are there. These are two elite teams with kind of stacked pitching staffs, and I'm excited to watch it.
Because this doesn't mean anything. It depends on how well you play tonight. But the number that Vanderbilt hoped doesn't repeat itself, and I think I got it right. I think they've made 10 errors in the series. Mississippi State has made none. Now, if you're getting a 2-1, 3-1 game, I mean, if that trend continued, that wouldn't be good for Vandy. But that doesn't mean it's going to continue. It's all what happens tonight.
Yeah, and those errors, those will hurt you. But the one thing they got going for them is they got some strikeout pitchers.
Yeah.
So they can make up for errors by striking guys out and doing things like that. So that's the one thing they got going for them. If they had a bunch of thumbers out there that weren't striking people out, that would be a big problem.
You've seen enough games on all levels that, games like last night happened for Vanderbilt. There's one of those, when you walk 10 and hit 2 and make 3 errors, you're giving a lot of free bases away.
Yeah, and, they took a shot. They were giving Rocker an extra day. They went kind of with guys that haven't pitched a lot. Mm-hmm. And I think they figured they had one game that they could do that with, and you might as well do it in this game. Instead of trying to bring Rocker back early, you let him have his extra day, and a couple of other guys in the bullpen, you let them have their extra day. And tonight they're loaded with, they have a full cupboard, coming for you. So that I think that's more what they did, because once they got behind by so far, they didn't bring in any of their main relievers. They brought in some guys that that they want to see, and they're still good pitchers. They haven't used them all that much.
Rocker, Leiter got a lot of the attention. Bednar is another good guy from Mississippi State tonight. Sims out of the pen. Are these the type of guys you see might have a short stay in the minors and be pitching in the bigs?
Yeah. I think Rock. These three with Leiter and then the two starting tonight. They're pretty special, and I don't think you're going to see them long in the minor leagues. They're pretty advanced for being in college.
I have to take you back to the dugout in Chicago now. They didn't call it spider tack, but I mean, the pitchers have always. I'm not putting words in your mouth, but pitchers have always been accused.
You'll never do that, Tom.
Well, I have on occasion, as a matter of fact. You were never on the air.
I told you not to do that.
You're never on the air when I do it. You don't know that I'm doing it, so
exactly.
Unless it gets back to you. But I mean, pitchers have been accused of loading the ball up for decades, and maybe since the beginning of time. Did you guys get into that when you were there?
Yeah, I mean, it's been going on so long. I mean, it goes probably to the start of baseball. When guys used to throw. What was the one? There was the one where the guy would load up his hand with a bunch of rosin, and when he threw it, it would be like a puff of smoke. And you're trying to pick. I forget who did it, but there's guys that did that. You had Gaylord Perry. You had guys that. They're always trying to figure out a way to make the ball do what they want, or make it unusual, or get a better grip. And, most guys were just, sunscreen and rosin on their arm. But, I think that's just something that they're looking at, they want to clean up. I don't know why it's now. I think, maybe the spin rates are getting too high that they're tracking. I mean, before you could never track it. So now that they can track it, maybe that's why they're doing it. But I'd rather have a guy have a little more control of the ball than not.
What are conversations like there in the dugout? I mean, I'll take you back as a hitter first and then as a manager. But, I mean, you never struck out, so it probably wasn't a big deal. But
yeah.
But, I mean, could you tell when the ball was loaded up and it was doing this and that? And
you could tell when, there was balls that would kind of cut. There was guys that used to cut the ball, actually cut it on their glove, and it would make it kind of slide across, which is now what guys do with cutters. But this one came out, he could throw it like a fastball, and it would cut like a regular cutter would today. They could scuff it and make it kind of dive down and away from you from a lefty. There was stuff they could do. I mean, and they all kind of did it, but if they hit it well enough, you weren't going to figure it out anyway back then. They didn't have all the, slow motion cameras and the cameras that could get in real close and see if something was there. But it's just something that's been going on forever. So I don't know. For me, it doesn't really kind of pique my interest because it's been going on a long time.
Did you ever, in your managerial career, go out to a umpire, the crew chief, and say, "Hey, I think old so-and-so's, loading it up. He's got stuff in his glove." Did you ever do that?
No, I don't. I don't think I did. I'm trying to even think. I know there was. I'm not going to tell you the player, but I know there was an umpire that kind of came and said, "Hey, you might want to get him to clean that up a little bit because, you could." There's been guys that, our pitcher will pick up the ball and you could pretty much palm it with your hand. So, and I'm saying it was, he picks up the ball after the inning and he's just like, so there's stuff like that. I don't know. To me, it's, if that's what they want to focus on, go ahead and focus on.
I often wondered about the veteran managers, and you were there. If you knew of one of yours or two or three that were doing that type of thing, I mean, would it be just, hey, don't ask, don't tell type thing? I don't want to know. Just do what you do.
No, they don't really share that with you. But if you think so, you go talk to them and make sure that they're either very careful or don't do it, because they you just have to be able to tell them you're playing with a little bit of fire here. So I don't know if you're doing it, but if you are, you better knock it off, because if you get caught, you're done.
Yeah, especially now, and hopefully we won't have anybody else dropping their drawers when they're.
And they're not going to tell you even if you ask them, Tom.
So. Yeah, I mean, you could admit, oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Come out and check this belt buckle of mine, and let me show you. No, you're right. They're not going to do that. As we get ready to wrap it up, though, you come back. Hey, the stadium got its christening this year, so to speak, and we'll be end up playing 30-some-odd games in there, something like that this year. What'd you guys come away thinking about the stadium? I mean, sun. I mean, you can't do much about sun. You can do much.
You can't do much about that. I mean, obviously it's a beautiful park. It's great for us. It's great for when we're practicing. I think just the setup it has with the half field, the cages, we can get a lot done in a lot less time.
Mm-hmm.
That part's really nice about the park. But I just like the closeness. The seats are low. It's a very tight little, backstop. So we're everything's pretty close to home plate, and hopefully, I think we had a couple games where it kind of filled up a little bit, but we were never really full capacity. And I think our guys, it would be a lot for our guys, just energy wise, to be able to have that place full, and see what happens.
As you. What's the tote board? I mean, people have asked me to ask you this, and my gut feeling was you were at first base more than Holiday was, as in Matt, because you had the hotter hand. I don't know the stats, but that would be my initial observation, that you had more run production than he did.
I think we're pretty neck and neck. I do. I mean, I had a pretty good run in the first inning there for a little while, so I would have to go out in the first inning, but. We're both a little older, and you might not want to stand out there all 9 innings. So we flip it up quite often.
I wonder how. Yeah, who dictates the rotation? You just gotta Have eye
No.
eye contact and that's it, or what?
Yeah, you just walk over and hand them the helmet.
Oh,
And
that's a
pretty
good way.
much. Yeah, you just like you want if I'm not scoring any runs. You're like you might want to give it a shot, see what happens.
So
the first time he did it, he put up a 5 spot. So I figured it was a pretty good idea.
Yeah, you didn't go back out then. I would imagine.
I just let him have it.
I just wondered how that worked, and I like the fact that you're over there, close to the stands. And that was one night, I forget what it was. I mean, I was going to get on you, but you're close enough you could hear that. So that's good. I like that.
I was ignoring you, Tom.
No, you heard me. You just okay.
I was ignoring you. I don't want you to mistake that. I was actually ignoring you.
Well, that doesn't make me feel any better or worse. I mean, the fact that you heard it, that's the main thing right there. That's all I cared about. Hey, man, it's great to catch up with you. I hope you enjoy the rest of your summer. And you're not taking any summer courses, are you? Just for the heck of it?
No.
Okay.
I'm gearing up for the start of school.
Back in the classroom. Have they become accustomed to the old man sitting in class yet, or what?
No, I haven't had to go to class yet because of COVID.
That's
so,
right. Yeah.
So that would be new.
Well, maybe we'll get back to normalcy. Maybe here before everything's said and done. Hey, enjoy the rest of your summer, and we'll see you when you get back up here. I appreciate your time. Good visit, man.
All right. Nice talking to you.
Talk to you again. Bye.
All right. Bye.
That is the one and only Robin Ventura.